Top 5 drinking games for your man cave. Now the way that this is going to work is I'm going to list out each one of the games that I like, and I'm going to illustrate some of the rules for those things. Now please bear in mind that all of these rules are very subjective. Sometimes people have different rules, sometimes people have different nuances on those rules. If you do, please let me know down in the comments, and also right now, if you could just let me know your favourite drinking game, because I've probably missed it off this list. However, here are my top 5. Let's start with number 1.
A very good place to start.
Okay, let's crack on with the first one, and number 1 is one of my personal favourites. It's called I Have Never. Now the way this works is you gather a bunch of friends. That's basically how every drinking game starts, because let's be honest, the main focus of drinking games are to get absolutely hammered as quickly as possible. But with I Have Never, you take it in turns to declare something you have never done. I've never been arrested, I've never sat in the back of a police car, I have never flown in an aeroplane, those sorts of things. And then those people around the circle, if they have done that, they take a drink. Now you can be quite sneaky about this, and you can target an individual that you know has done a certain thing. So you might say, I have never worn a bra, and then that targets only a select group of those people who you're with, and so only the girls will then drink. So there's lots of different ways that you can do it. It can get a little bit nasty sometimes, and it can get a little bit too targeted if you only pick a certain person. There can't be any repetitions, but those people who have done that thing then stand up and take a swig of whatever they're drinking. Now, it can work in many different ways. Either you take a certain amount of the long drink, like if you've got a pint of beer, you might drink 2 fingers worth, meaning if it's up to here, you put your fingers there, you drink down to this part and then you stop. Or more commonly, you take a shot. So I Have Never is a really cool game, and there are nuances towards it, which means that if no one around the circle stands up and drinks, then the person who said I have never then has to drink. Also, if you're caught lying, you might need to take 2 drinks as opposed to just the 1. It's quite a versatile game, but you've got to be a bit careful that you don't go too sensitive on any of this stuff. And I think that's probably a rule that you probably have to apply for every single one of these. As people start getting more and more drunk, they become a bit more sensitive. Be careful of that. And by the way, although drinking games are only really ever to get absolutely smashed, please drink responsibly. Number 2, Cards Against Humanity. Cards Against Humanity is a game in and of itself, so you don't need to use that as a drinking game. However, it can be quite fun if you've got the right people in the right audience at the right time. Now, the way Cards Against Humanity works is that you have an individual who leads the game. Okay, so let's talk about Cards Against Humanity. It comes in a box like this, which is rather large, and although it does have instructions, I'm roughly going to show you how it's done. It has this many cards in it, quite a lot. A lot of them are black cards, like this. I'll explain what this is in a second. And they also have white cards like this. Okay, I'm not going to go massively into detail on this, but the black cards are for the card czar. They read out a phrase such as the number of people in Somalia is. And you pick who is the card czar by the person who had a poo most recently. And no, I'm not joking. So the person who went to the toilet, had a number 2 most recently, is going to be the card czar, and that person switches around every single round. And then you deal out the white cards, 10 per person. So you take the whole of the black pile and you say something like, why am I sticky? And then it's down to all of these cards here. Some of them are funnier than others. You might say, Daddy's brown sauce. So that might be one of your answers. Then again, it might be something a little bit more risky. And I'm not going to say what that one is. That one's a bit too risky for a family-friendly channel like this. But you might say, fragile masculinity is the reason that you're sticky. There's lots of different things in these cards. Some of them are quite risque. And so that's why it says Cards Against Humanity is a game for horrible people. The whole idea is that you come up with the best punchline. That best punchline, though, might not always be politically correct, and in fact, most of the time, the funniest one is the one that offends people the most. So choose your audience very wisely on this one. And then a whole bunch of people have an answer, and it might be, I'm not even going to give an example, but it's just very, very inappropriate. And it's the one that makes the group laugh the most that wins. Those people can then be immune for the drinking round, or if they win, they might be the person who has to drink. So it depends on how smashed you want the whole group to get. Either everyone drinks, in which case you end the game early because everyone's going to be absolutely hammered by the end of the round, or that one individual drinks, in which case you might target them if they are the funniest eventually they're going to end up not the funniest because they'll probably be under the table. Number 3, drinking chess. And I know that sounds a little bit lame, like how fun can chess be when you're drinking? Well, it turns out you can get very, very drunk. So you'll probably be aware of the Chinese chessboard. It's nothing like that. You don't sort of double it every square or anything like that. So with drinking chess, instead of chess pieces, you use little shot glasses filled with liquid. Typically they're a little bit smaller than normal shot glasses, and I'll explain why in a second. But every time you take the opposing person's chess piece, you have to drink the contents. So typically there's 8 pieces per line on a chessboard. There's also 2 lines per player on a chessboard, which means that there's 16 shots that you could drink per round. If you play 2 rounds, that's 32 shots. You can start to see how these things can become a bit of a problem. Of course, the reason that you would have a king as a shot glass, even though you can't normally take the king, you can either change the rules so that you can take the king, or at the end, once you've beaten the other player, you drink all of their shots. What you might also want to do though is to either stop at that point, refill all of the glasses, or you might want to down them all and then refill again and play again. I'm not going to recommend one or the other. All I will say is that if you drink all of them and then play again, the second round is probably going to be an awful lot slower, either because you're going to have to stop to be sick, you're going to feel very, very drunk and not really very clever, so you're not going to be able to move these things, or you might fall asleep. Number 4. Shot roulette. I've actually got one of those over there. The way this works is that you have a small ball bearing that you roll just like a normal roulette wheel, and every time you land on a number you drink the contents, and you take it in turns to roll the ball. So everybody can be the croupier, everyone rolls the ball, takes it in turns and takes the drink. Now the cool thing about that is that because you're not refilling those glasses every time you drink, there is a higher and higher chance that you won't have to drink, which does make the jeopardy a little bit better if you're later in the game, so that other people will have drunk your drink. So the likelihood of you getting drunk is actually a little bit lower, and it might make it a bit more fun. Now you can also make this a Russian roulette in that you put a lot of chili sauce in one of them. Typically that will be the 0 one, which is normally shaded in green. If you put a lot of chili in that one, it will make it disgusting. That's kind of the Russian roulette vibe. If you get it, you've got to drink it. Everyone's kind of then thinking, I don't want to get that, and it sort of adds a bit of jeopardy to the whole situation. Number 5. Number 5's a really simple one, and the reason I did this is because it's rock, paper, scissors. So I actually have a t-shirt that my wife bought me, says let's settle this like adults, and it's got this rock, paper, scissors thing on it, which kind of made me think of this. A rock, paper, scissors is probably one of the easiest drinking games that you've got. So you either go rock, paper or scissors, and you normally go 1, 2, 3, and then you choose which symbol you want. So rock beats the scissors because they break the scissors cut the paper, and the paper wraps the rock. You've also got other games, other variations like it, like rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock.
Scissors cuts paper, paper covers rock. Rock crushes lizard, lizard poisons Spock. Spock smashes scissors, scissors decapitates lizard, lizard eats paper, paper disproves Spock, Spock vaporizes rock, and as it always has, rock crushes scissors.
I don't really want to get into that, but if you want to make it slightly more advanced and probably more difficult to understand when you're drunk and remember all of the rules, you might want to get into rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock, which is from the Big Bang Theory, but it is quite a good game if you can do all of that. Sometimes you're going to need a bit of a cheat sheet, and I think that's sort of defeats the object of the simplicity of rock, paper, scissors. So there we have it, the top 5 drinking games for your man cave. Let me know which one's your favourite down in the comments. Click that like button, subscribe and ding that bell. I'll be back next time with some more magical awesomeness, but until next time, as always,
Stay magical.